Okay, take two. This is Mishlei 14:15, the pasuk about a Pesi. Okay, you get these occasional pesukim in Mishlei that define the Mishleic archetypes in almost like explicit terms. I mean, you could say that this is not a definition, but this is a definition. Pesi yamin l'chol davar, the arum yamin la'ashuro. Okay, and the weird word here is la'ashuro, which is why I included the BDB translation. So how would you translate this? And obviously, we have to kind of take a stance on the Pesi in terms of initial translation.
Yamin is also like
Yamin I think is actually the easiest.
It sounds like a petty is believed in all manners.
That'd be Ne'eman, no?
No. Ne'eman is an adjective that means he is trustworthy. Yamin is he will believe.
Oh, so it's okay.
Yeah. So how do you translate Pesi though? So my go-to translation, as David correctly quoted, a naive simpleton. Okay, and we'll have to see. The challenge here is that I use the term Pesi all the time in Mishlei, and so I am not ideally. We have different Mishleic archetypes. Some of them we encounter a lot, like Chacham and Rasha, and Tzaddik and Ksil. But other ones are middle common, and some of them are not common at all. So Pesi's like in the middle. And so like what you want to do is try to look at it with fresh eyes, but it is very hard because this is one of the primary archetypes of Mishlei. So I'm going to have to do in my own mind like a juggling act of like trying to set aside my preconceived notions enough to be able to like see if there's new ideas, but then we also will be encountering old ideas, I'm sure. So naive simpleton is my working definition. Yeah.
Also on your like archetypes,
right?
Is I get confused between Pesi and Na'ar, which is like the malleable one.
So they're both malleable in the sense that they both are audiences of Mishlei. And actually, now that you mentioned that, I should actually read the first time Pesi appears in Mishlei, because this is just to substantiate what I said, that this is a Mishleic archetype. So Mishlei Shlomo ben David Melech Yisrael. This is the first pasuk. L'das chacham musar l'havin imir vina. So the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and discipline, to understand statements of understanding. L'kachas musar haskel tzedek umishpat umisharim. To take intelligent discipline, righteousness, justice, and uprightness. Now here's the audiences. L'seis l'fasayim orma. To give cunning to naive simpletons. L'na'ar das umzima. Knowledge and design, that's how ArtScroll like translating it, to the youth. Yishma chacham v'yosef lekach v'navon takbulos yefna. The wise man will hear and will acquire, increase his learning, and the man of understanding will acquire strategies. So both of them are malleable. They might be malleable in different ways, though. So I guess we'll see that. Okay, so let's go with naive simpleton for now. I guess we'll see. Okay, well, we'll see what the English translation says. Okay, yeah. So yamin l'chol davar.
We'll trust anything.
So I would say we'll believe anything, and the reason why is because trust is like bitachon, like batach, is to trust in something. I know I just said earlier that like ne'eman is trustworthy, right? But if you're using it as a verb, to me, batach is to take security in or to have confidence in, whereas ya'amin means to like Radak in the Sefer Shirashim. Oh, actually, you know what? Now we have the Sefer Shirashim. I mean, we've had it for a while now, but for those who don't know, because I don't usually use this feature. So when you click on the word in Al Torah in the pesukim, so you have the BDB, which I always use. You have the Tarshim, which is the graph that shows the how often the words appear in Tanakh, and you can click on each one. So let's say Mishlei, and it'll show all the Mishlei ones, and you have the traditional concordancia, but then you have the Milim Kadmonim, the early dictionaries. So you have here Menachem ibn Shaprut. Hold on a second. Menachem Grammarian, Hebrew. No, Ben Yaakov. Oh, Saruk. I knew it had some sort of one of those like names. Okay, so Menachem and Saruk. The Ri ibn Janach, Rabbi Yonah ibn Janach, Rabbi Yosef Kimchi. Oh, that's interesting. That's the Razak's father. I've never seen that come up. I don't know if they added it or if he's just not on everything. Then the Radak, the Sefer Shorashim, and then Rabbi Eliyahu Bachur. Never heard of him either. So Radak in Amen says that. Oh, interesting. He does define it in terms of he says Kulam Asher Him Binyan Hifil. So sorry, the Hemin Barashem Luman Ya'aminu. So that's Kulam Asher Him Binyan Hifil. So that's all Hifil like ours. Him Inyan Habitachon B'Hakbala. Anyone see what this word is balaz?
Let's see, credence.
Yeah, credence, credenza,
Wow.
right? Okay. V'him yotzim inyan emuna ki amamin be'echad nosin ha'emuna v'sover shehu emes. Now, you don't always get this clean of a definition in the Radak. Don't think that this is everything that you're going to get, because usually what he does is he just brings down all of the instances in the different grammatical forms and then talks about them. But here he's saying explicitly, this is actually very good. He says that all of them, so it means all of them are an idea of trust and acceptance, credence in laws, v'hem yotzim inyan emuna, and they derive from the concept of emuna, ki hamamin be'achad, because someone who believes in something, nosin ha'emuna, places his belief, the sover shehu emes, and he holds that it is true. And I think at the very end, this is actually what I wanted to quote. At the very end, he says, I thought he says at the very end that it is a variant on the term MS. But I could be wrong about that.
I mean,
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah. No. Emun. No, okay. That's sorry. That's whatever. Yeah. Anyway. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
MS Mishpat show the last word on the page.
Yeah. What is this commenting on though? Anochi shlume emuna Yisrael shloshtam shem tor kulam inyan emes. Right. Okay. So emunim is means related to emes v'aldati ki emes mishor shzeh. That's what. Yeah. Thank you. So according to my opinion, emes comes from aleph mem nun. Okay. Umishpato emenes befeles develes v'nafla hanun lahakel kmo shenafla min bas haroi benes v'hadagesh b'hisamcho el hakinoim yochiach. Okay, yeah. So he holds that MS comes from emuna, right? Yeah. So this is not like I often get the question from students like what amen means, and they think that amen means kel melech ne'eman, and I said, there are some who hold that like, you should have that in mind when you say it, but it is a word, and it means MS, it means truth. Yeah.
A question on Torah. Is the Aruch also here?
So the Aruch, good question. The Aruch is not a Tanakh dictionary, I believe. The Aruch is a Talmud dictionary, and so I don't know if he's here. He could, let me just see if they have it in the library, under a different section. Let's see, Shlema. Milonim v'dikduk Aruch. There he is. Yeah. So let's look there. Yeah. So he's probably just not in the Tanakh because he's a Handwerker Mr. Baldir. I don't know. I assume those are names. Umanim Korean Barosh Ha'ilan. Okay, yeah. This is too long. All right. We can look at it later. Yeah. Oh. Okay, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So he is there. Okay. Good to know though. Okay. So it's naive simpleton will believe how do you translate L'chol davar? Anything. Yeah, I think anything is good. Yeah.
In sort of L'chol davar.
Yeah.
It seems like that's, I mean, I almost read it as Peti Yami L'chol davar. He is believed for anything, that people will believe anything. Now I know that's not how we understand it, naive simpleton, but Yami L'chol davar sounds like he is trusted in all manners.
Interesting. So
he believes anything. It will be like Yami Kol davar.
Right. So it is a valid question how you're supposed to read it with a lamed. I want to go back to the
Wouldn't that be Naaman?
Is believed. Yeah, that is believed. Right. That's true.
Is the
right.
Yam is he is the one doing the verb.
Right. He is. Yeah. But I think you're still raising a valid question about the lamed. Right, as opposed to you could have said Pesi Yamin Kol Davar, but I don't know what Le Kol Davar is, which we'll just write this as a question here. How do we read the Lamed prefix? Why doesn't it say Ya'amin Pesi Ya'amin Kol Davar? Yeah.
Well, the prefix in the first time.
In the first. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. We might have to modify for the second half also. Okay. So naive simpleton will believe anything. The Arum Yavin la'ashuro.
And a cunning man.
Yeah, but a cunning man
will understand how to get him going.
Yeah, so this is this weird term here. The BDB says ashur is step or going. I would guess, and this is totally a guess on my part, that it is related to yashar, like that or it means like ashur, or it's related to like happy or like complete, but yashar seems to be more of like a verb, yeah. So, but a cunning man will understand.
Or his step.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say his step in the same way as we kind of ignore the lamed, in this first part. But we'll see what the English says. Okay, so let's go with the minimalist meforshim here. ציון says la'ashuro is inyan derech upsia, so it means path and footsteps. Kamo ba'ashuro echazeh ragli. In my step, I gaze at my foot. Okay, you're gonna crash into something. Targum Sadion says la'ashuro is rishada, I don't know whatever that is in Arabic. Vihi hayitzivus, that's standing. V'ha'amida al amitas hadavar v'yashro. So it's like a figurative term of standing. Like, do we have a word in English for like? I wonder if understanding comes from standing. I have no idea. But like, do we have a word in English for like understanding something? But like we say, for example, having a firm grasp, but that's a hand muscle. Do we have a foot muscle for understanding something in English? An idiom, I mean? Yeah, foothold and understanding. We do say that. But that's more of like when you're trying to figure something out. I'm saying like, is there something for like fully understanding something that uses feet?
Well, it's like we talk about like taking a step.
That's in the process of arriving on understanding. I'm saying, do we have some right? Yeah, right. Like I stand on the truth. That's basically like what Sadiq is saying,
Grounded.
Yeah. All right. So if something comes to mind, we'll see. Okay. Targum Ksuvim says Shavra meheman lakol mile va'arima misbayan letavase. Made it rhyme. Yeah. So I think letavase means like understands it well. Okay. I'm not going to go too much into the Targum. I think this is a pretty much straight translation. Malbim says Pesi and Arum who have Pesi. Okay, so that's true. We saw that in the opening pasuk is Laseis Lipsayim Arma. Knis Pelel, the Arum Yivchon Tachlis Masehu. So this is a little bit of an answer here, but he says an Arum understands the ultimate outcome of his action. Kamoshin Emar, Kol Arum Yaseh Badas, like it says, every Arum acts with knowledge. And then Chachmas Arum, Having Darko. I think we did that pasuk. The Chachma of the cunning person is understanding his way. Yeah. Wait a minute, what pasuk are we in? Yeah, we did that in this parak. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Fine. All right. So we have. Do we get anything from here? Yeah. So Sadigon said like la'ashuro means having a full understanding of something of the truth of something, the truth of something. Okay. Fine. So that's pretty much all we got. That's new. Arshel says a fool believes anything, but a clever person understands it correctly. Okay, so again, you see here, Arshel doesn't even bother with the foot words. He just says understand it correctly. Refer says an inexperienced man believes every word, but a clever man observes his own step. So I like observes his own step. That seems to be the way that that pasuk in Eov was talking about it. Like he gazes at his own foot when he walks. Alter says a dupe. That's what I like about it. He translates Pesi. A dupe will believe everything, but the shrewd man understands where he steps. So I also like dupe because we use it as a verb in English, like you were duped, and that is what happens to the Pesi. I feel like we don't use the word dupe as a noun in English. Like, look at that dupe over there, but it's a good word. Yeah. I think.
Just about the grammar of la'ashuro.
Yeah.
Is it definitely his own, or could it be someone else?
Good question. I think it could mean someone else's because it doesn't. Well, here's the thing. Okay, let's actually ask this as a question here. Okay, who is the possessive in la'ashuro referring to? Oops, sorry, error referring to the Arum himself, the Pesi, right? Or, and then there's another possibility.
The third party.
Okay, third party. Or
Fourth party.
nope. I think or the davar. Right? He understands the davar to its correctly. right? Meaning both of them are, the Pesin is yamin every davar, whereas the Arum is yavin every davar la'ashuro. I think that's the most likely meaning. Yeah. Okay. So obviously our major question here is what is the definition of Pesi in this context? And then what is the definition of Arum in this context? What else?
What leads him to believe everything?
Okay, yeah. Why does the Pesi believe everything? And then I guess I'm gonna break that down to two questions, which is like what in a positive sense compels him to believe everything? And then like what in a passive, I guess active sense, I know this, but one in an active sense, and then what in a passive sense allows him to believe everything. Meaning that we say that he believes everything. Does it mean that there's something in him that drives him to believe everything? You know, as opposed to a regular person who doesn't have that drive to believe everything? Or is the model here that he has nothing that gets in the way of his natural inclination to believe stuff, you know, whereas an Arum might have something, you know, so I'm not sure exactly how to phrase this. That's why I'm including both.
Oh,
yeah, Arya?
Is this a little pasha?
Okay, so I'm going to ask this question, but I think it depends on what our frame of reference is. Okay, so I'm going to put this at the end. Okay, so
What do you mean by that?
I'll explain as I write it. What is, as is my want? Okay, so what is the chiddush here? Okay, so the question is this pasuk like the definition of the Pesi? Okay, in which case it is a chiddush. Okay, but if so, what is it doing in the middle of the book? Okay, I think we had this question by the lates also. All right, and then alternatively, is this telling us some new insight into the Pesi? And if so, what is it? How is this not just repeating the definition of the Pesi? Okay, so in other words, this is like a problem either way. If this is telling us the definition, then it itself is a chiddush, but then what is it doing here? You know, it should really be in the first introductory chapters of Mishlei. And then if this is telling us a new point, then it doesn't sound like it's telling us a new point. So this is not the normal question of isn't this obvious? Because this is a definitional pasuk. Yeah, Ezra? Yeah, Isaac?
What is the davar?
Yeah. So what is the davar? What kind of davar is this referring to?
Like if you tell them the sky is green, he'll believe it.
Yeah, and I think that's really the more challenging question, which is really he'll believe kol davar. Like and if kol doesn't mean like actually everything, what does it mean? What does it include? Yeah. Yeah.
How does the Arum understand how to his step?
Yeah. Okay. So how, I guess we'll say like, yeah, why and how does, what was it?
And what does he understand?
Yeah. Does the Arum understand his step? And then what is meant by la'ashuro? Yeah. Where did we put the yeah, let me put this here and then put the lamed here. Yeah, already have one? No?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
Go
yeah, David?
first,
Okay, so the question we have of what kind of davar is referring to, you know, is number 3 right now.
Yeah.
Just to talk that a little more, I mean, is this specifically like davar of like a practical things to do davar, like advice davar, or is this like philosophical thing? Is this like
Right.
I was just saying like the sky is green?
Right. Does this encompass all kinds of statements or things, or only a specific types? And if the latter, like why use the most generic phrase possible, right? And I think this is safe to say, kol davar, right? Protection from everything. What does that mean? Is it a thing? Yeah. Yeah.
What's the subject of this pasuk?
Seems to be a Pesi and an Arum.
Oh, yeah, that is such a remarkable.
I mean, we'll ask it anyway, but it does seem to be that. Okay.
Who's the audience?
Yeah. What is the subject of this pasuk? Okay. And then yeah, who is the audience, right? So like, is this for a Pesi? If so, we know he's going to believe it. Okay, but and then let's say and if so, like, yeah, I guess yeah, who's the audience and what is the practical application? And I guess the question here is like whether this is for like if this is for a Pesi or an Arum, then what purpose does the other half serve, right? So it seems to be that this is really for someone who is in between or can go both ways. Yeah, David?
Another question too, we had a why and how does the Arum understand his step?
Yeah.
So what benefit is that to understanding one step?
Okay, so
Like,
let's
what-
just ask let's ask on both of them though, right? Which is like, what are the benefits and consequences for each half?
Yeah, and I think from these different like descriptions that we have of them, how do they take this aspect of themselves and apply it to something that's beneficial or consequential?
Right.
Like,
Okay.
how does the Arum take from understanding his step to actually making it beneficial?
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. To me, that's included in whenever we ask what is the practical application. But yeah. Okay. I feel like that is most of the questions. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
Yeah. So my question is like, someone who's like a naive simpleton, does that also mean that he's like academically slow, or like he's, for lack of a better term, like dumb or stupid also?
Okay, so I'll include that in the definition of the Pesi. Like, is there is this a deficiency in his like IQ? Okay, or a moral character, ethical deficiency, or something in between. Like, actually, I'll ask this in a pointed way. Can you be a smart Pesi, right? Like, we know that you could be a smart Ksil. I think I forgot where we know that from, but I feel like we've encountered that before. Like intellectually smart, but can you be a smart Pesi? Yeah, Isaac.
I have an idea.
Okay.
What are the connotations? Like, are we like it seems like the Pesi is like to be looked down upon for being naive.
Yeah.
And it looks like the Arum is supposed to be like held in like a good light for having like understanding.
Right.
Is that the case?
I think so. I mean, I feel like you can ask that question on any Mishlei pasuk where the two halves are clear opposites. Like if it have a pasuk that like depicts the Chacham, in a positive light, then I would assume that that's intentional.
The Chacham is always in a positive light, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think isn't the Pesi always in a negative light?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're just asking factually.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let me think how to translate this
Arum.
question.
Right.
And Arum. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay. I'll put this question here. Is the Mishleic? I guess are the Mishleic? No. Is the Mishleic usage of Pesi always to be understood as like
villain.
yeah, and villain's way too strong of a word. In a negative manner, and the Arum in a positive manner. So I'll give you an example. Like, let's say, like for example, in Bereshis, the Nachash is Arum, and that's negative, and in Tehillim, Kuf something.
Which what do you think?
We say Shomer Pasayim Hashem, right? Which seems to not be negative, right? Like it's not necessarily positive, but like I want Shmira, so like entirely negative. Okay, so like does Mishlei's usage accord with this? Yeah,
I mean, the following example isn't necessarily positive. It could just be.
that's why I framed it as not to be entirely
Yeah,
negative.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
One more question. Do we ask what the opposite of the 200 pasuk is?
Um,
Can't find it.
no, we did not. So let's go
I guess
here.
more specifically within that question.
Yeah, how are these two halves opposites? And I'll just as a more pointed way, what do we say about the emuna of the Arum and the bina of the Pesi, right?
Yeah, like how are those opposites?
Yeah. The Arum and the Pesi themselves are opposites, but
Yeah.
the statements about them are not necessarily opposites.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Lots of good questions. Okay, good. So we've at least tilled the soil for real Kiddush here. That is not just not just obvious. Okay. Isaac.
Okay, yeah. So the way I'm reading the pasuk is that it's like the two halves are clean opposites.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start with the Arum. So the Arum is a person who kind of like understands psychology and how that influences people in the way that they act and make decisions.
Yeah.
So he understands when someone acts, he understands the complex motivations that are guiding them to act that way.
Yeah.
So he's so he'll understand and respond to the way they're acting based on all of the levels of how they're acting, not just the surface.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas the Pesi, he he'll like he's just responding he's believing the surface level way that a person's presenting their actions.
Okay.
And I have an example of this.
Okay.
Hypothetical example.
Yeah.
Let's
Not
say-
hypothetical enough to stop the recording, I see. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say someone was at a job where where they wanted people to be working more than 40 hours a week,
Yeah.
but they can't say that.
Yeah.
For legal reasons.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. Yeah.
And then a person who is only working 40 hours a week is getting negative feedback that they need to do a better job delivering results in a more timely fashion.
Yeah.
So the Pesi would hear that and think, I'm not doing a good job
Right.
with, managing my workload. I need to learn how to be more efficient.
Yeah.
The Arum would understand that that is a mechanism, that is a tool, like giving like negative feedback like that is a tool that hypothetical manager in this case might be using to try to push the person to be working longer hours to get everything done.
Mhm.
So so that they're getting more out of the person.
Yeah.
Without telling them to work longer hours.
Yeah. Okay. So just one factual question, which you might have said and I might have just missed it. So who is the O in the Ashu row?
The third part.
The third party. Okay. All right. That's what I thought you were saying. Okay. So Isaac's idea is, and then how would you answer Ariel's question about what is the subject?
The subject is understanding the way that others operate.
Okay, is how the Pesi and Arum I'm gonna use this vague word process human operations. That sounds so robotic. Okay. Okay, but I'll explain it, right? So the Pesi, sorry, I'll start with the Arum like you did. So the Arum is someone who understands or I guess who has a grasp and appreciation of like the layers of human psychology and recognizes that that the behavior of other people isn't always what it seems, but and therefore he looks beneath the surface to understand why this person is doing or saying what they're doing or saying, and doesn't just accept the surface presentation of the behavior at face value, unlike the Pesi, who does. Okay, yeah, I think that's just the opposite. Yeah, Devin? No, yeah. Okay, so the only, I like this idea. The only, and I can't even call it a critique. The only thing I'm unsettled by as a reading of the pasuk is it would be so much smoother to say the Pesi believes everyone, and the Arum understands, and then some other phrase like that. The fact, and it's possible. I mean, that's one reservation I have. The other reservation I have is I do think that the simplest reading of the pasuk, is that I do think the simplest way to read it is la'ashuro is the davar, because subject and object, the Pesi believes everything, and the Arum understands everything's firm basis or step. So I think that and what that does is your idea is true, but if we're going to read the pasuk that way, then it kind of unseats the first step that you took about that this is how they relate to people specifically in people's words, and it suggests that there's a broader thing here.
Yeah.
That's my reservation.
Okay.
Yeah. Ariel.
But was
Does anyone have any other comments on this?
A different read.
Yeah.
Oh, I have an idea, but
Yeah, that's what he means by a different read. That's what he means by a different read. Yeah. Anyone have any more comments on Isaac's approach? Okay, David, you're up. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think that the Peti will believe either every person or just everything he sees. He'll believe it to be that which is okay, sorry, I'll start again. The Peti, I think, turns off his critical thinking and just believes everything to be something that will be nice and good for him. So when it's every other person, when there's he'll believe that every person thinks similarly to him and has the same wants as him and believes everything similarly to him. And so he'll just accept everything that somebody says because they're thinking just like me. They want the same things as I do. And then when he sees, say, something that unfolds in the world, and then it's like for anything, not just every person, he'll always believe it to be in his simple belief system without critically challenging it. And I think, and then the Arum, I think, is someone who's different. He recognizes that not every person thinks the same way that I do. Not everybody wants the same things I do. And not everything is going to be what I would like for it to be on face value. Something like, just put, for example, this in context. I mean, say like with people like with what's happening in Israel. I think very, very a lot of Americans just kind of assume, oh yeah, the Palestinians just want to have this freedom. They just want to have their own house. And that's not what these people want. Hamas isn't doing it because they just want to be like every other American. I think a very simple, not critically thinking person is just going to say, oh, they're just like me. And so if Hamas were to, whatever they do, Peti will interpret it in their own framework without actually thinking about it critically.
Okay.
And I think it could also come from I think a difficulty or just the pain or the challengingness of having to challenge things and to think critically. And I think that it's much easier at the outset and just much simpler to just I'll just believe what I want to believe and the world will be nicer that way.
Right. Okay, good. So let me summarize and then give an example of my own and then comment. Let's see. Okay. So W is saying that the reason why the Pesi believes everything is because he uncritically embraces his own framework. And by framework I mean ideas, values, premises, assumptions, whatever, and never questions it and imposes it onto everything. So what I like about this is that, and I'm going to slightly say, by the way, I don't think you're going to object to this. Early on, you said that he assumes everything's going to be good for him. I think this could work for bad also. I don't think he's an overly optimistic person. I think that he would do, if he has some preconceived notion about terrorist attacks or pandemic, I think he's also going to he's not going to assume everything's going to work. You weren't saying he's going to assume everything's going to work out well, or were you?
Not necessarily. I think that there's, this is a great record, like the only simchas type of attitude.
Yeah.
I think like that's like one thing that's also that just like everything will always be for the good.
Oh, so you are okay.
But I think that I mean when they see something bad, like they're not going to assume terrorist attacks are for the good, but they'll still assume that there was like something like whoever was behind this was thinking something like me.
Okay,
Or something
and
like
they'll assume. Okay, so I do take issue with the emphasis on the positive though, but they'll assume that everyone operates like they do. Okay, the Arum. Oh, sorry, and then consequently, this is what I think this is the strength of your interpretation here is that consequently, he will literally believe everything because there are no additional steps he feels he needs to take. He feels he needs to take, or no possibility that any of his steps are wrong, right? In other words, all of the premises, everything's gonna be processed through the premises that he already has a conclusion on everything, like that's what it means. Okay. The Arum recognizes the opposite, okay, and questions everything appropriately. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
How would we read the second half of the pasuk?
That the Arum, for example, is not going to assume that other people think like him, not going to assume that everything is already in line with what his own premises are, and so he'll make sure he understands every step and is not missing any step. Example of this, and I think the Rambam actually uses the term Pesi, is when he's describing the three groups in terms of the way that people relate to Chazal, the words of Chazal. So this is in the first group. He says, wait a minute. Okay, so he says, you know what? I'm just gonna read this in English. Oh, I want the Hebrew because I want to see if he uses the word Pesi. Okay, but let me see. Do I have this on my current groups? No. Okay, so I have to go to the blog. Oh no, I have to go to the old blog. No, I don't. I have to go to my, hold on a second. I have a more updated one. Rambam 3 groups. There we go. 2019. All right. So among the things you need to know, this is in Chelek, in the introduction to Chelek, with regards to the Agadic statements of Chazal, group 1. People can be divided into 3 groups. Group 1. The first group includes the majority of people I have met and whose books I have seen and about whom I have heard. These people understand the Agadic statements of Chazal, meaning the non-halachic statements, according to their literal meanings without explaining them at all. To them, all impossible things are believed to be necessarily real. They only do this on account of their ignorance in branches of wisdom and inexperience with the sciences. They lack sufficient intellectual perfection to be awakened to such wisdom on their own, and they have found no one to awaken them. Consequently, they think, here's the part that I was thinking, they think that the only meaning in the wise words of Chazal is what they themselves understand, namely the literal meaning. They think this, even though the literal meanings contain statements so bizarre that if you were to tell them in their literal meaning to an average person, and certainly to an individual person, they would be astounded and exclaim, how is it possible that there should be anyone in the world who would imagine such things and think they are true, much less find favor in his eyes? So they, he goes on. This unfortunate group, may God have mercy on their stupidity, which is one of the best Rambam parentheticals, exalt Chazal in their own minds, but in reality, they degrade them to the utmost extent without realizing it. As God lives, this group destroys the beauty of Torah and darkens its brilliance. These people make the Torah of Hashem the opposite of its intended purpose. For Hashem said about the wisdom of his Torah, all who shall all hear all these decrees and say, Rak am chacham v'navan hagoy hagadol zeh. Surely a wise and discerning people is this great nation. But the members of this group expound from the literal meanings of the words of Chazal notions which, if heard by the Gentiles, would cause them to say, Rak am sachal v'navan hagoy katan zeh. Surely a stupid and disgraceful people is this pathetic nation. Many of the people who do this are public speakers who attempt to convey ideas to the people which they themselves do not understand. If only they would shut up, since they don't understand. If only you would be utterly silent and let that be your wisdom. Or if they had it in them to say, we do not know what Chazal intended with these words, nor do we know how to interpret them. Instead, they think they understand, and they set themselves up as authorities to convey to the people their own understanding, not what Chazal actually said, and they expound to the masses the midrashim in brachos and perek chelek and the like, word for word according to the literal meanings. So that's like taking Chazal and just assuming Chazal think the way I do. There's no way they could be teaching me anything beyond what I already hold or what I already think is possible. And there's no chidushim. It's all just like, in my own mind. Yeah. So that's a good example of that. Okay. Now my reservation about it is, my only reservation is I think what you were saying about the optimism thing.
Yeah, okay, can you elaborate more on why you were thinking?
Yeah, because first of all, I don't see any indication of that in the pesukim.
Yeah.
It just says they believe everything, good or bad. And secondly, given the profile that you're talking about, even within your definition, I don't see why they would specifically believe that everything's going to work out for them. I do think that they would believe that they would uncritically accept. In other words, the essence, I think, of your idea is uncritical acceptance in particular and in general, meaning in terms of the particular thing, they don't ask questions about it. And in terms of the way they think about stuff, they don't question it. And I don't see why that would differentiate between something that is, positive or negative. Yeah.
Just to strengthen that, I think, let's say you see like conspiracy theorists,
Right.
they interpret everything as like the government is trying to control them, in the way that's very negative.
Yeah.
But I think that's,
that's a Pesi type thing. Yeah, I think so also. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I hear what you're saying. So maybe not to take it in the optimism where I think that's like a overall necessary good.
Yeah.
As much as maybe, I think like going along with that simpleness, that it could be something bad, like say like, oh, like I heard someone got killed or something, like that's sad. And it's like, oh, that was good, right. That's sad. But maybe like so not optimism, but like an ease that they accept everything.
Right. Yeah.
And so they'll always try to, I think that there will be like a natural thing, interpreting things for easy. It's like, oh, it's so sad, but then like not think more about it. And just
right.
Like
okay. Yeah.
Optimism, like a certain ease that they
right. I think that's a better approach. Is that they the Pesi's way of thinking is definitely taking the easy way.
Yeah, I think whatever's the easiest way to understand anything like immediately, that's what goes on. Yeah,
with no conflict. Yeah.
I feel like I've read or heard things from people who are operating in this way, where they said we're like, why are you trying to make this complicated? It's not complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
One question also, which I think is just a stom question on the pasuk, and I don't know how davka you were about this phrase, but you used the phrase earlier on, they turn off their critical faculty. Yeah. And my question is the Pesi someone who has that faculty and then turns it off, or is it that they haven't developed that yet? I think that's an open question for now. Yeah, you too.
Just also another question is do we have to say that he has a framework like a priori, or meaning maybe he's accepting it from no framework?
That's a good question also. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So I would say just on the surface here that I think what will happen is either he will have a framework that can be expressed in concrete, factual, intellectual terms, or if he doesn't, then whatever the easiest way to think about it will be generated from just his emotions and his psyche. So I think he always will land in a framework. I don't think the Pesi is someone who just says, I don't know. I can't imagine him doing that, because that would kind of clash with his core personality. Okay, Yoshua, and then we got to stop because I got to go now.
Yeah, is it possible for the Pesi in terms of turning on the intellect or not being developed? Could it be that they actually think they are using their intellect, kind of like the first category in the Rambam, where they think they're correct and that they know what they're talking about?
Right. I'm going to actually add that as a separate question, which is on the Pesi, which is what does the Pesi think he's doing? Okay. Does he think he's being Yavin la'ashuro, or in his mind, is that not necessary? Okay. And he's doing something else. Yeah. That's a good question. Good open question. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. I got to stop now. Actually, let's just do one thing. Let's just read and translate the Metzudas David like we often do at the end of the days when we don't have time, and then not analyze it. L'chol davar the divrei lashon hara hanemar lo. Wow. Okay, where does he get that from? He believes words of lashon hara that are said to him, and la'ashuro is ladarko hamiti, to its true way. Yeah, Lamita Sa'inyan. So he takes it the way I did it with the MS of the statement. Okay. Don't know where he gets that from, but we'll have to come back to that tomorrow. Bli neder. Okay. All right. Good haul. I'm optimistic about getting new insights from this.